would love to bring to the stage, this beautiful stage at this beautiful location in Silver Bay, the co-founders of this amazing work called Challenge Day, who I just got to meet today. I've watched that video 1,000 times, and they showed up on campus today, and of course I was like, oh my God, you people are doing remarkable work for our planet. Thank you so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Rich and Yvonne Dutra-St. John.
Gulp. So actually, welcome to our life. And I thank Rick and Chuck for believing in our work for all this time and for having us here. It's an honor. It's an honor to be in a room full of people who would come and spend time learning and sharing how to play a bigger game on the planet. Actually, I feel like the most blessed man on the planet. We get to travel all around the world, seeing miracles, falling in love with new people, and I get to do it with the love of my life, my best friend. I love her, I love her. So I just want to share before we move in, we're going to do two parts to our presentation. The first part's going to share a little of our story, where it all came from. The second part will be an experience for you, so give you a heads up about after break. But the first part is, our vision is to create a world where every child feels safe, loved, and celebrated. And that's not just every young person, but that's the child that still lives inside of each and every one of our hearts. Every single one of us, no matter how old we are, we know we want to be seen and celebrated for who we are, exactly the way we are. And that fire still burns after all these years. It's been 28 years we've been doing this work. And it still gets us up every day and makes us do what we do. We were talking today about when will we retire. I go, retire? What does retire look like? And so I really want to invite you to join us in helping make that vision a reality. Now I want to show you how much power you have. Raise your hand if you remember 75% of what you learned in school. Nobody. How about 50%? 50, like when they have 50. Oh, I got a couple of 50s. Nice. Are you teachers? How about 25%? 25%. Yeah, That's usually about what people say.
Yeah, right.
Now let me show you this. I'd like you to stand up, actually. If you remember the people in your life, the teachers, the parents, the people in your life who believed in you, who saw you, who loved you, and knew you could make it. Go ahead. Look around. Some of us, sadly, didn't have those people in our life, and I'm sorry for that. But this is the most powerful gift you can have in a young person's life or in each other's life, is to be those people who can be a stand and be cheerleaders for people and know that they're perfect just the way they are. So give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you.
Good evening. I think one of the biggest questions we're asked is, what inspired us, compelled us to create Challenge Day and to be the change movement? And that answer for us is simple. We're parents. We're parents. When we created Challenge Day, our kids were ages 1, 2, 3, and 4. Every day was a challenge day. Every day. And honestly, we created Challenge Day because we didn't want our kids to go through the same teasing, the bullying, the loneliness, the humiliation, and the separation that we did in school. We didn't want our kids to go through it. We didn't want anybody else's kids to go through it because it's totally unnecessary. And honestly, as I look back over our lives, I'll speak for me, over my life, I think that everything in my life, the blessings, the gifts, the beautiful things, and the painful things, the challenging things, the things that I thought I'd never live through, all of those have been blessings and been like the stepping stones in my life to get me to be this woman who stands in front of you today and to prepare me for what we did with Challenge Day. So in this moment, I am grateful and have found the gifts in everything in my life. But if you really knew me, you know I didn't always live that way. The first part of my life, I walked around with a big V on my forehead. The V stood for victim. And you know I had the V on my forehead because you can see it in my body language. You could hear it and like, oh God, this isn't fair. And I realized I actually had my numbers upside down and backwards. Because what I realized was life doesn't happen to me. If I look carefully, it happens for me. And I do look carefully every day. I want to share with you some of the basic beliefs that all of our work has been based on over the last 28 years. First belief is we believe that every single human being does the best they can every single day of their life. We do the best that we can every day with the gifts that we have, the tools that we've learned, and with any unhealed pain we may have carried with us from our childhood, or maybe that's been passed down from one generation to the next to the next. We do the best that we can every single day. I've got to believe that in order to keep doing this work that I do day after day. I mean, for example, we believe there is no such thing as a bad kid. No such thing as a bad kid. I have never, ever in my life met a bad kid. Every single kid does the best that they can every single day. No kid's ever said, hey, you know what? I'm going to grow up and someday I want to be a drug addict. Because that'll make you real proud of me. No kid's ever done it. On the other hand, no kid's ever said, no, I want to be the one in my family that everyone says, if it wasn't for you, this family would be fine. No kid's ever done it. Every child does the best that they can every moment of every day. And every adult does the best they can. And every single parent does the best that they can also. I really believe that no parents ever said, hey, Rich, you want to have some kids and see what just mess up their lives really bad? You want to do that? No parents ever done that. But I know some of you are probably thinking, yeah, mine did. They didn't, I guarantee you. Your parents did the best they could, and so did mine. And if you really knew me, you would know that growing up in my family was very, very painful. Actually, my dad was a very loving man, but he was away so much, my mom was doing most of the parenting. And she came from many generations of mental illness, and she was a rageaholic. And wake up in the morning and honestly would never know which mom was going to be there. She was yelling and screaming, a lot of hitting, pulling hair, screaming, and I was the second oldest of 4 kids. And I remember about 5 years old, I remember thinking, Mom's not going to be able to handle this, so I think I'm going to have to be the one to take care of everything. So as Mom was yelling and screaming and hitting, I said, no, you can't hit my little sister, you hit me, right here, hit me, not her. I look back and I don't even remember feeling scared. I don't ever remember feeling scared, but I do remember feeling hungry. Not that kind, a different kind. I remember very young, eating and eating and eating and eating. At the time, I thought I was hungry for food. Today, I know it was much more than food. But because I ate so much, by the time I was in junior high school, I was a really big girl. They called me fat. I was also very short. I had braces, and then my mom topped it off with a homemade funky hairdo. Not a good combination for any school, but especially for junior high school. Yeah, pretty bad. Doing this work for so many years, what I realize is I think almost every one of us has been teased at some time or another. Raise your hand if you've ever been teased or bullied by anyone, maybe even a sibling. Most every one of us have been teased. But at every school that we've been to, there's not only all the kids that are teased, There are certain few in every school that are tortured. Everyone turns on those kids. I was one of those kids. I hated going to school. But being home was even worse. And I go to school and I try to be invisible because it felt like the kids' popularity was based on how bad they can humiliate me. Give you a sense of what it was like. I remember in 7th grade, we had our first school dance. And everyone was excited about the dance, and my two best friends, Sandy and Tracy, said, "You're going to go to the dance, aren't you?" "I'm not going to any dance." So, "No, you got to go to the dance. Come on, everyone's going to the dance." I said, "Okay, I'm going to go to the dance." My mom, she actually took me shopping. Got me a new outfit, plaid mini skirt, knee-high socks. It was cool back in the day, right? And I remember I was practicing every night in front of the mirror, my music playing, so excited about the dance. Now, this was back in the day when all the guys sat on one side of the gym, right? And all the girls sat on the other side. And I found my way to the girls' side in the corner with my friend Tracy and my friend Sandy. And it was back in the day when the boys asked the girls to dance. At least that first dance, we didn't break the rules. So the music started playing, and slowly the guys got their courage, and they started getting up and asking the girls to dance. Dance after dance, more and more kids were up dancing. Pretty soon I looked around, it was just me and Sandy and Tracy sitting in the corner. And I remember just feeling so embarrassed. We're not going to dance, with the thoughts going on my mind. And then the next song came along. Someone asked Tracy and Sandy to dance. I was the only one sitting in the corner. I remember I felt so naked. I was so embarrassed. I was praying for the dance to end. Finally, they called out the last song. I was like, "Oh, good, I just want to go home." Everyone's up dancing. And then I saw from the other side of the room the most popular boy in the school, I know because I had the biggest crush on him. He started walking over towards me. And I looked, there was no other girls on the side there, and he started heading towards me. And I realized he was going to ask me to dance, and I got so excited, my heart started to pound. He came up and said, "Would you like to dance?" I said, "I'd love to dance." Got out of my chair, we ran to the middle of the room, and I started dancing. Then everyone started to laugh. They dared him to dance with me. I found out later he took his hat off, went around and said, "How much will you pay me to dance with a fat girl?" Things like that happen every day. I hated going to school. The end of my 7th grade year, I went to spend the summer with my cousins in Minnesota. We're from California. Over the summer, out of desperation, I developed an eating disorder that I knew nothing about. Nobody was talking about eating disorders way back when. Bulimia. Eating and throwing up, eating and throwing up. I spent the summer trapped in a dangerous, addictive, scary cycle all alone. I didn't tell anyone. I felt totally out of control. By the end of the summer, in a very dangerous way, I lost lots of weight. I went back to school the beginning of my 8th grade year, and because the outside of my body looked like what the media thought was okay, I walked on the school campus, and all of a sudden, everybody wanted to be my friend. Do you know that was in some ways more painful to me than being teased for being fat? But the gift I got in that, and I look for the gift in everything, is I learned very, very young, firsthand. We get treated very different, each and every one of us, just based on what we look like on the outside. If that hadn't happened to me in junior high school, if I hadn't gone through that pain, I don't know if we would ever have created the Challenge Day program. So I am so grateful for every experience in my life. Then I went into high school and I stepped in what I thought was my biggest dream. I was one of the most popular kids in the school. I was a cheerleader, I was in band, I was in sports, I was vice president of my class all 4 years. Then my senior year, the whole school voted me in as homecoming queen. And then the kids started spreading rumors saying I was conceited and stuck up. What I learned from that was nobody was winning at this game. Because up to that point, I thought, the popular kids, they got it good. No one hurts them. No one teases them. But I realized we were all stuck in this game, looking at people, judging each other, hurting each other, and separating and dividing until the
So you're going to see a theme where our passion came from. For me, school was a roller coaster ride. Elementary school, it was cool. I had friends. I was on the teams. I got included. School was actually my safe place. I used to stay at school as late as I could, and sometimes my teachers had to drive me home because I hated being at home. I grew up in a violent alcoholic home, and so for me, being at school felt a whole lot better. But junior high, my parents, they moved, and I went to a whole new school district. Raise your hand if you've ever been the new kid in school. So some of you probably know what I'm talking about. I walked on the campus, and everywhere I looked, people looked different than me. They were dressed different than me. They were listening to different kind of music. They were bigger than me. I think I was one of the smallest kids in my 7th grade class. And there was these 3 guys from the very first day I got there who decided it was going to be their job in life to make my life hell. They followed me around the halls. They slammed into me from behind. They spread rumors about me. They didn't even know me. And if I ever argued or fought back, they all 3 jumped on me at the same time. Now, I didn't tell my teachers, because I thought if I told my teachers, kids at my new school wouldn't like me, and I wouldn't have any friends. And I was ashamed to tell my parents, especially my dad. Because my dad, he'd grown up really hard in the streets and gangs and things. And so for him, it was never okay to be afraid. So I went to school every day in junior high, doing what I call today, smile through the crap of life. Hello, hi, I'm good, I'm fine, everything's good, hello. But if you really knew me, I hated going to that school. And if you really knew me, really, really knew me, there's a lot of days in junior high I thought about being dead. But somehow I made it through junior high. Between junior high and high school, I hit puberty, and I got bigger, and when I got to high school, because I was a good athlete, I got accepted. I was part of the jock group. Just like Yvonne, I was all of a sudden a different experience. And do you know, as part of that group, I stood by and watched my friends say the very same rude, mean, bullying behaviors and obnoxious comments to other people that I hated when I was in junior high. And I rarely had the time to say stop, or had the courage to say stop, because I thought if I did, it would all turn back on me and I would be back in junior high again. And at that time, I wasn't willing to take that chance. So after high school, even though I graduated with honors, I had offers to play professional baseball. Everyone thought I was really successful. I didn't feel proud of myself. I knew I needed to use my voice for something positive. So when I got to college, I decided I was going to be a teacher. And I was going to be the best teacher there ever was. And I feel really proud of the teacher I was. I told my students, if you ever want to talk, I'll be there for you. Every day, there was groups of young people outside my room wanting to talk about the very same things I hated when I was in school. Getting picked on, being judged, being left out, being bullied, not knowing how to talk to girls or boys or whatever it is that they were doing. All the confusion that teenagers have. And so I decided I'm going to go get my license as a family therapist, so I did that. And then I opened and ran 2 different adolescent drug treatment programs. And it's when I was doing drug treatment, started asking the question, why do young people have to get into the system or into drugs and alcohol or into jail before they get access, or at least forced to go have the kind of support that most of us all want, need, and deserve? And I was working at a program in Oakland, California, where I was clinical director, called Thunder Road. It was a 50-bed hospital, and I met the love of my life. So part 3 of the story.
By the time I met Rich, I had already been working for years developing and implementing prevention and intervention programs with students and communities. And, hold on, babe. And, at that point, well, I was working with a program that I loved with the police department and with counselors. And what we were doing is doing interventions with the young people before they were put in juvenile hall. And those kids were my kids. I loved those kids. But a lot of them had real severe drug and alcohol addictions, but I didn't want to refer them to a lot of the treatment programs in California at the time. Because a lot of the treatment programs were about, let's rip them down and then build them back up. I don't think we need to rip them down. I think we just build them up and build them up. I heard of this one drug treatment program called Thunder Road, and I was hearing great rumors about the work they were doing with young people. So I asked one of my friends and colleagues to come check out the program. And we made an appointment with a man named Rich Dutra. Went to the hospital, walked into the lobby. This man came out, shook our hands, said, "Nice to meet you." And then there was a crash in the background, and he said, "I'll be right back." And he ran the other way. When he ran the other way, I turned to my friend and I said, "I'm supposed to be with that man." It came right out of my mouth. Honestly, raise your hand if that's ever happened to you. You knew somebody before you met them, or you knew you were somewhere before. Anyhow, he came back, and of course I didn't say anything about it. I was probably very red. And then he took us, spent a day with them, with the teenagers and with the staff. And what I saw in this man's eyes, and what I felt in this man's heart, was the same passion and love that I had for working with teenagers. Next day, I get a call from a man named Rich Dutra, and he says, "Really like to offer you a job." I didn't need a job. I love my job. I created it myself, but I was very curious about this man, so I said I'd take it part-time. So we started, just a little bit, we started working together. Long story short, we brought our work together, our passion together, we fell in love, and what we realized was the work that we had been doing on our own, separately in our own way, up to that point, was dealing with the symptoms of the problem. And that work has to be done, and I thank and I honor everyone who's dedicated their life to doing that work. But we wanted to get to the root of the problem. Because you see, we don't believe the biggest problems in our schools today are alcohol, drug abuse, eating disorders, violence, truancy, and you know that list can go on and on and on. Those are all the symptoms of the biggest problems. We believe the biggest problems in our schools today are separation, isolation, and loneliness, which doesn't make sense to me because most of our schools are crowded with hundreds, sometimes thousands of kids. So if our kids are feeling lonely, it's not because there's a lack of people, it's because there's a lack of love and connection between them. So our goal became to create a program that was powerful enough and safe enough to bring young people together from every group on the school campus. Our dream was to unite kids of different ages, different shapes and size bodies, kids with different skin colors, different cultural backgrounds, young people who spoke different languages. We wanted to unite kids with different sexual orientations, kids that didn't know each other, kids that didn't like each other. We even wanted to bring together the kids that hated each other. And our goal wasn't just to bring them together in tolerance, which is a word we hear all the time in our country. We have a lot of tolerance programs. Personally, I believe if we settle for tolerance, we've failed. I mean, really? I'll tolerate you? I'll tolerate you? Is that the best we can do? Our goal was to see if we can bring them together in love. Because if our kids cannot experience love and connection in their school, how can they ever believe that peace on earth is possible? You see what we're up to? You're up to seeing what's possible through the eyes of the kids. In 1987, we stepped in and we led our first challenge day. There had been a fight, big fight that broke out. 1987. There was a big fight that broke out on the school campus, and the administrators had heard of our dream to do this thing called Challenge Day. And they said, "We need you now." So they brought all the kids that had been in the fight, they brought the kids from all the different groups, and we walked in, and we did a Challenge Day. And let me tell you, It was beyond our wildest dreams. Every line of separation disappeared. That video that you saw is what our staff, our Challenge Day leaders get to see every single day across this country and around the world, because young people are ready. They're ready to remember what they came here to do, and they know they have to do it now, and they've got to do it fast. And we as adults had better stand up and join them, or get our fear and our doubt and get out of their way, because they are ready to change the world. Well, I don't know about you, but in my life, I feel like I'm being guided. Like if I look closely, it's kind of like there's signs that say, yeah, you're on the right track, keep going, like breadcrumbs along the way. But every once in a while, there's not just breadcrumbs. There'll be like this loaf of bread. First Challenge Day, loaf of bread.
Gulp.
There is a time, gulp, let me tell you. There is a time in the Challenge Day program where we turn it over to the young people. We say, you are the leaders, you are the teachers. Here's the microphone, follow your heart, you know what to do. The captain of the football team, he came up and he grabbed the mic from my hand. He started walking across the room, and then all his teammates started to follow. He walked across the room, and he stood in front of a young girl who had just cried and shared about being teased for being fat. And he stood in front of her with tears running down his cheeks. He looked right in her eyes and he said, I am so sorry for the years of teasing and hurting that me and my friends have caused you. And as long as we're here on this campus, it'll never, ever happen again. And then he stepped forward and he held her. And when he held her, that girl that still lived inside of me that was teased for so many years about being fat, she started to heal. And I looked at Rich across the gym, and he looked at me. We were sobbing. And we looked in each other's eyes, and we knew this would become our life's work. That was 1987. And what I love to tell, especially the young people, is when we first created the program, we were already pretty well known in San Francisco Bay Area for the work we had been doing with teenagers and in schools. We went to the people we worked with, who were also our friends, and we told them about this dream we had to create this program called Challenge Day. And we described what we imagined would happen, what our vision was. And as we were talking, they kind of laughed and shook their heads and looked down, and then one of our friends said, "You guys are crazy. Do you really think you can bring young people together in school, loving each other, hugging each other, apologizing, and forgiving each other? You guys are crazy." Well, that was 1987. They called us crazy. As of today, as an organization, we have led Challenge Days in every state in this beautiful country, the United States of America. We have led Challenge Days, all of our staff, all across Canada. We have led Challenge Days in Germany, Australia, Japan, in Belgium, in Holland. We were in Belgium and Holland last week. In Sweden. We're getting emails and calls from around the world. Last summer, we did Challenge Days in Uganda. Our TV's, our documentary, Surviving High School, won an Emmy for children's programming. We've been on the Oprah Winfrey Show twice. We had a TV series on MTV called If You Really Knew Me. We've had 5 years of TV showing in Holland called Over the Strait. We have reached millions and millions of young people and adults in different ways with our work. So guess what? They don't call us crazy anymore. Well, yeah. Okay, most of the time. So if you really knew us, what's going to come out? We are crazy. Crazy enough to believe that young people can come together in their school in love. Crazy enough to believe that still this day, 2015, we can create peace on earth. Crazy enough to believe that we have everything we need on this planet to do what we need to do if every one of us steps up and plays our bigger game. Any other crazy people in this room other than the two of us? Woo! Give yourselves a round of applause for being beautifully crazy.